And this is Ken Kraetzer at Sam's of Gedney Way in White Plains for this week's edition of the West Point Football Report, the Beat Kent State edition, here with John Chuhran. And we saw a game at Michie Stadium last week. Army struggled with an experienced, very physical team from Rice University from Houston. This time they're going to go out to Kent State, where they've had some success. They won at Kent State in the bowl year in 2010. Kent State's had some big years, but they're really struggling this year. 0-6 on the season, and this is a game Army can try to show that win its first game on a campus site in about 5 years. So this is a good opportunity for Army to get their season back online.
It is, Ken, because the game against Rice certainly was a disappointment. I mean, when you get right down to it, Army had a real chance to take control of that game. They were basically outmuscled. They were out-manpowered in that one. The smallest offensive lineman on Rice was 6'3", 290 pounds, and the offensive line was basically able to give quarterback Dreyfus Jackson a tremendous amount of time all day long. He wound up completing 15 of 21 passes for 209 yards. And they also opened up great holes that they were able to complete a great running game out there. Time of possession was fairly similar. Total offensive yards was fairly similar, but that wasn't really reflective of the game. The game really was, Rice really controlled that game, and they took a 41-21 win and dropped Army to a 2-4 record. And they have a hole to get out of, but they have a good chance against Kent State. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit.
This game was 24-14. Army was trailing in the contest, and but Army, as we talked to their quarterback after the game, Angel Santiago, ran a terrific drive at the end of the first half, 75-yard, 9-play drive, culminating with a 7-yard pass from Angel Santiago to Xavier Moss. Both Larry Dixon and Terry Baggett had big runs in that drive. And it looked at the end of the half, 24-14, like Army had a chance to get back and position themselves well for a strong second half. But a fumble on the opening possession really hurt in the snap from the center, Matt Hugenberg, to Angel Santiago went awry and recovered by Rice, who, as you said, their quarterback, Jackson, just threw the ball downfield the first play, 50-yard touchdown pass. And Army kind of struggled. They had a drive in the second half, another 75-yard drive, finishing with an Angel Santiago 24-yard run. He had 106 yards on the day. And that touchdown. And we talked a little bit with Coach Jeff Monken after the game, and I asked him a little bit about, you had the really the one-on-one matchup of top fullback Larry Dixon, the senior, the center for Army, Matt Hugenberg, and then this big, experienced Outland Trophy candidate nose tackle for Rice, Christian Covington. Who was kind of like one of those really tough summer drills where all you do is you have one defensive player, a center, a quarterback, and a running back. And Army must have run that play a dozen times. Larry Dixon carried 13 times for 86 yards. But really, it was tough going inside. Santiago carried the ball a lot himself on offense and struggled to get the ball outside to Terry Baggett, who was their best outside threat this year. And Ray Maples didn't play. He was hurt. They're hoping he's going to be back, able to play this week. The fifth-year senior from Philadelphia has run for 1,000 yards twice for Army in his career, but has had difficulty with injuries the past 2 years. So we'll see. It was a big crowd up there. A little bit of rain in the morning. We have a beautiful day today here in Westchester. And let's see what the weather is out in Kent, Ohio, northern Ohio, near Akron, for the game tomorrow. The Black Knights traveling out there to play for a late start. It's 3 o'clock start, is it, John? Or
3:30.
3:30, yeah, on ESPN 3. And so we'll be following that one. At Jeff Monken's press conference this week on Tuesday, he talked a little bit about what the defense has to do to improve. And it was something that was very evident in the game. They were trying to put pressure in the Rice backfield from the linebackers, especially Andrew King from Queens and Jeremy Tim from Arizona. And they had some success, but there were a lot of missed tackles. Coach Monken said he counted 20 watching the film that could have stopped Rice gains much earlier and made a big difference in the game. They say they practice every single practice doing tackling, which is a really tough thing because it's very physically demanding on the players to practice tackling every day. Some schools actually, and I know in the NFL, they a lot of times they don't practice tackling during the week because it just accumulates injuries. But that was one of the things he said they have to work on is improving tackling and stopping plays before they become big gains.
Well, Ken, an interesting point was you and I could watch the games, and there was an awful lot of that weight distribution advantage that Rice had, and that was able to basically manhandle Army, and they didn't get their footwork down. The coach was keen to point out that they just weren't positioning their feet right, and they weren't because they were being pushed around, and that led to a lot of reaching and grabbing and lunging, and that's not the way to make tackles, and he knows it, and so do the Army players, but there was not much else they could do about it. They've been working on how to improve that. We'll see if they're able to do that against Kent State. Kent State's got a good opportunity for them to try to bring this forward because, as you pointed out, Kent State's 0-6. We'll go into some of their players in a little bit.
Okay, and a few news and notes points. Our friend Colby Miller, who is a member of the class of 2014, played much of the season at starting inside linebacker for Army, is receiving his Ranger tab this weekend. He completed the grueling Ranger program down south, 90 days, I understand, of training in the most arduous conditions to show how a officer or a ranger can lead troops in tough battle situations. So our congratulations to Colby Miller. He was our recipient, one of our two recipients last year of the Lieutenant Evans Colonel Howard Award, honoring two residents, two natives of Pelham, New York, who had played on a championship team at Morgan State and were in ROTC there, and then served as U.S. Army officers. Sadly, Lieutenant Evans was killed heroically in Korea, and Colonel Howard died in Vietnam leading in a battle. So our best wishes to Colby Miller and on receiving his Ranger recognition this weekend. Also, I just want to mention a big program for the American Legion and also for all veterans here in Westchester is the honor flight taking veterans to Washington, D.C. on Saturday. There'll be about 70 making the trip from Westchester County Airport, including our good friend Bob McGurl, Vietnam veteran, going on the trip, and Allison Bergman from the Girl Scouts, who we've worked with on the Cookies for Troops program, is making the trip as well. As guardians for, there's basically a guardian going with each of the veterans. And they're going to go down and tour. They're going to go see the World War II monuments, some of the other monuments on the Capitol Mall.
And perhaps the new Disabled American Veterans for Life monument, which was just opened 2 weeks ago.
That'd be a good thing to see. And then they're going up to Arlington National Cemetery to see the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier. And some of the other sites, the Iwo Jima Memorial, I know they're going to visit. And a great day of recognition. First time they've been able to do that out of Westchester County Airport. And so we'll have more on that on our page on Facebook, Sons of the American Legion Radio. And, John, I know on our Monday show, I'm going to be out, but I know you're going to try to hear how the day went for some of our local veterans.
Absolutely right, Ken. And you and I are going to head up there tomorrow to try and get some pre-event interviews to find out what these veterans and honored Americans hope to see when they're down in Washington.
Yeah, a fellow named Brian Marr from Orange County is the organizer of this, and they've been running these honor flights from Stewart Airport for a number of years. And this is the first time they've been able to set up to leave out of Westchester County Airport. So it's going to be a great day, a terrific event for the veterans participating. And thank you for all who helped organize. And I know there was a lot of fundraising that made the day possible. We're going to have an outing to the Fordham game in November, and just look at our page, West Point Football Report. We'll have information, a special rate on tickets through the end of the month, and a day to go out. It'll be the last game you can go out to see the team this year at Mikey Stadium. The Air Force game is sold out, but the Fordham game should be interesting. Fordham's having a terrific year. They are building their program and winning games by big scores, so they're going to be a challenge for Army, and it could come down to it if things work out that could be the game Army needs to win to have a chance to play in the Armed Forces Bowl down in Fort Worth in Texas later this year.
Absolutely right, Ken. The November 22nd game against Fordham could be pivotal to what Army can do in the future. It could be crucial to their bowl hopes. And as we say, there's a great ticket offer that if you go to our Facebook page, you'll be able to find more details about that.
Okay, but the game at hand is going to be out at Kent, Ohio on Saturday against the Golden Flashes. Army, as I said earlier, won a game there in 2010, so they have had some success, but Ray Maples may be the only player on the team who played in that game, being a fifth-year senior. So we will see. Kent State is struggled. They really had a tough game when they went to the Horseshoe in Columbus and got a drubbing from Ohio State. I don't think they've been the same since then. John, I know you've been looking at some of the more details about Kent State.
Absolutely right. Kent State is 0-6 this year. They're a big turnaround from their 10-win season where they went to the bowl game. And they're averaging 11.8 points per game and only 274 yards of total offense per game. So this is a team that can be stopped. Their quarterback, Colin Reardon, he's completed 118 of 216 passes. So basically he's a 50% passer. And the interesting thing here is he's thrown 6 touchdowns, but even more so, 8 interceptions. So the Army defense, which has shown itself quite capable of making interceptions this year, certainly could do a good job against him if the conditions are right on Saturday. Chris Humphrey's been their favorite pass receiver for Reardon, and he's made 24 catches, so I'm sure they're going to be giving strong coverage to him. While Casey Pierce, he's also got 23 catches. He's just right behind Humphrey. So those are their primary receivers out there. They are allowing 34.7 points per game, which is a lot, and they're allowing a massive 465.5 yards per game to the opposition. So it doesn't seem like their defense is really strong. The one standout on their defense is Nate Holley, who has a team-best 8 tackles. So overall, the Golden Flashes really look like they could be in a pivotal position for Army to be able to top them and to do well. Now, it's an interesting situation for Army because they were held to 250 yards against Rice, and that dropped their season average down to 323 yards on the ground. It dropped them into third place in the nation in terms of rushing yardage. But we've also got some changes that are coming about that were instituted at the Rice game, and we'll see if they play out even better against Kent State. You have junior Ryan Alexander, who started at defensive end against the Yale game. He's been moved over to tackle, and freshman Ryan England, who started at running back, he's now been moved over to be safety. So it's going to be there'll be some changes in the Army team, and it will be interesting to see how that plays out. I hope they're going to work. They started to show some nice success with that. We'll find out how it actually works out against Kent State on Saturday.
Well, those are interesting changes, certainly with the Army defensive captain out for the foreseeable future. Jeff Bacon put a lot of pressure on Hayden Pierce in the backfield. Stephen Johnson has played, and as you point out, they've moved another player into the defensive backfield. Army, it was interesting, John. I was hearing Bucky Showalter talking on a radio show during the playoffs, and they were talking college football for a moment, and he made a very adept point when he said, you evaluate teams right now by what their second-string players look like, because everybody has injuries, and nobody can play every minute of every game. And so Army struggled with depth, particularly on defense and on the offensive line. Coach Munkin was talking about some of the players that he's bringing in. Colby Negrin, who got his first start recently, and Corey Hobbs this year. A few other players. Jaron Villegas has moved into the offensive line. As we all know and all hear, when you're making changes on your offensive line, that's going to be a challenge. But Army's got all the experience in the backfield, and Larry Dixon is one of those players that can help will a team to success. Angel Santiago, we presume that he will be starting and will play most of the game. But if things stall, look for A.J. Sure to go in and start throwing the ball, throw his intermediate passes, which he's very good at.
Coach Monken has not been afraid to rotate his quarterbacks and to go with the hot hand, and I don't expect that'll be any different with this one. I think that Santiago has shown some success in recent games. He's gotten starts, but the reality is, I think if any one of them turns cold, or either one of them turns cold, the other one has a great chance to come in and show what he can do.
Okay, well, we'll be off next week as Army takes a bye week and everyone gets a chance to rest just a little bit and to practice up. Then the big one on November 1st at Mikey Stadium against Air Force, a game that everybody looks forward to, the first of the Commander-in-Chief Trophy games for Army. Air Force has already beaten Navy in the first round out in Colorado Springs. So this game, if Air Force should win, they would win the trophy. And believe me, neither Navy or Army want to see that happen. They want to see Army win and then make the Army-Navy game in Baltimore, second Saturday of December, for the Commander-in-Chief Trophy, and also the coveted visit to the White House.
That's absolutely right, Ken. I mean, the Commander-in-Chief Trophy is something that the service academies pride themselves on. Interestingly, if there is a tie, meaning each of the teams wins one game, Navy gets to retain it. And
Army would love to bring that back, especially a team with as many seniors on it as this one. And it looks like it could be very interesting. I think both the game against Air Force and the game against Navy are going to be very close games going in. And, the thing that really stands out with Coach Monken is how competitive a guy he is. He wants to win every day at everything he does, and he will make the team very competitive, and it'll be interesting to watch how he handles. He obviously is coached at Navy. He knows all about the rivalry, but he knows he's such a competitive guy, and that's one of the things that he's really brought very noticeably to the Army program, the sense of competitiveness. And so we're going to look forward to these games. But the business at hand is to go out to Kent, Ohio, and run the offense, run the option, get 350 yards on the ground, throw a few passes. Then on defense, to stop the Kent running game, and look for big games from the linebackers. Steve McCarty had a big game last week, and then see how the defensive backfield is holding up. Certainly, Josh Jenkins and Chris Carnegie at the corners have really done great jobs for Army, playing virtually all the time. And Hayden Pierce, again, as a senior in the middle. And then we got to see who plays that fourth, second safety, and how they manage that, because that's where Army will be tested.
We definitely will see Ryan England get a shot out there. Again, he's a freshman. Hopefully at safety he'll perform well. It's a good opportunity. This is a good team for Army to be playing now as a comeback to try and get that victory. They're 0-6. They're giving up over 420 yards a game to their opponents. I think Army has a real good chance, and I think this has a great opportunity for them to get that long-sought road win.
Absolutely. Okay, well, that's our show for today, the West Point Football Report, our Beat Kent State edition. I want to thank our hosts, Karen and Peter, here at Sam's of Gedney Way, fine restaurant right in White Plains, and appreciate their hosting us today. And we are a program of the Sons of the American Legion, serving America's veterans, part of the 4 million member family of the American Legion. And we're based with Squadron 135 right here in White Plains. And so we just want to end our show with the words, Beat Kent State.
Absolutely.
This is Ken Kraetzer for Sons of the American Legion Radio.